All right, so we are so excited. RH Spotlight Theater and Rush Henrietta High School are so excited to welcome Marc Malsegna. He is class of 2013, Rush Henrietta, and he's here to talk to us about some instrumental work and being a professional musician out in the world. So welcome, Marc. Thanks for coming on and being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, very happy to be here. So,
Yes. So I think if you just want to start out kind of like telling us a little bit about, you know, how you got to where you are, tell us your story. I think kids are really going to be excited to hear about that. I know I am, to hear how you left these halls and went out into the world to do what
sure.
you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, totally. So, I think we'll start in high school, I guess. Like, so I finished high school in 2013, and then I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston. So, yeah, I mean, I was not in the world of musical theater at all. So I guess that's kind of why I'm here to talk about a little bit about Broadway and stuff. But I'm more like I'm really into jazz music. So like I wanted to study jazz and fusion, and I wanted to play pop music and do all kinds of contemporary styles and stuff like that. So yeah, Berklee was like the best place for me to go. So I
Yeah,
went
Mr.
there.
Cannon made sure to walk me into the orchestra room to show me the plaque that you are responsible for
Oh yeah,
jazz.
what? Oh
It's
yeah, that's right.
that competition. He's like, that's Marc Melsagna. I was like, yay! So still being celebrated, your jazz
Oh,
stuff.
that's so cool. I love that. That makes me feel really nice. That's good. Yeah, so anyways, so I was at Berkeley and I just went really into playing jazz and also like rock and pop and all that kind of stuff. But it was a really great like collaborative environment. I got really good at reading. I was always good at reading music because I played in orchestra. I played violin. I rushed Henrietta too. So I guess having that violin experience really kind of gave me the good gave me that really nice reading and solid music foundation to be able to just read. And the funny thing about being a guitar player is not many guitar players can read very well. It's just the way guitar players are brought up. Like they don't like it's like you don't teach guitar in school districts as much. So most guitar players that play pop and rock and all that kind of stuff like don't really have a reading foundation. So like I would just get asked to play like musical theater or like Broadway or like little pits at like middle schools and stuff like that. And I would do it just as a side gig and I could like sight read it and it would be okay, you know. But anyways, so after finishing Berkeley, I moved to New York City. For me, it was New York City or going to LA in California. So it was one of the two because I have a huge network in LA too of pop musicians and people doing all that kind of creative stuff. But anyway, so I chose New York just because I like the city better. I like the lifestyle, you know, it's like very fast paced and everything. And so like I moved here like literally with just I had some savings in my bank account and this is a classic story. And I was subletting my friend's apartment in Washington Heights, which is uptown Manhattan. And yeah, I just like would email every teaching job that I could find. Like, so I just wanted to find out like some kind of guitar teaching gig where I could get students and like just so I could survive. But I was doing that, and then I was going to jam sessions, and I was hanging out with my friends that were here, and eventually I found myself getting like 10 students like a week roughly. So
Wow.
like I was traveling to their homes. So I would travel to the Upper East Side. I'd travel to like Soho. Like I would travel to Upper West Side. Just like I was just going all over teaching lessons, you know, during the day, and then I would go to gym sessions at night. And at the same time, I knew Broadway was like a great gig for like in town in New York City. And I knew it wasn't an easy gig to get, but like I knew you kind of had to reach out. I knew somebody that was doing Broadway gigs, so like I asked him for some advice, and he said I should be reaching out to these people just to get coffee and like to kind of meet these players. And they're usually older. They're usually guys in their like 40s and 50s, maybe 60s, guys who've been doing this since like the 70s. It's like those are the guys who have the gigs, you know, not
Uh-huh.
usually young. It's not guys like me who are like 26, you know. So like actually I was 23 when I moved here, by the way. So
Oh.
or 24 maybe, but no, maybe I was 22. Whatever. I was
Uh-oh,
22,
you've reached the
23.
age of
Yeah.
elderly. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
No, I think I was 22. I moved to New York City in 2017. So
Wow.
whatever that, yeah,
Yeah, that's 22-ish because you graduated in 13.
yeah, totally. Yeah, so I sent a bunch of emails to like a bunch of Broadway players I found online. I found out who was playing for School of Rock, like Aladdin, all these shows, just because I wanted to like see who was doing these gigs. You know, I had no idea. I didn't know anybody. And then like the guy from School of Rock wrote back to me and also by that time, I had done some like really professional gigs. Like I did a 4 month tour of this it was kind of like a Broadway related thing, ironically, but it was like this Irish rock dancing production. I mean, I was on tour, like on a tour bus, you know, for 4 months. of my life right after I graduated Berkeley. So that was kind of amazing. So
Yeah,
like
that's
so
neat.
I had this cool gig that I've done. So I had some credibility to my name maybe. So I think he saw that and then he was like down to meet me for coffee. And then he invited me to come sit in the pit of School of Rock. And then after I watched it with him, yeah, he just offered me like a spot to sub for him when he wasn't able to do it. So on Broadway, like not everybody, in the band like does every show 8 shows a week. Like it's very common to take 2 shows off or multiple shows off for other gigs or just to have time off, you know, because like it is like especially these shows like they run like every I guess like 6 days a week, and musicians want to do other things too besides their main gig, just to
Right.
kind of stay in the scene and have other opportunities in the future or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyways, so I was subbing for him like once or twice a week or once or twice maybe 3 times a month. Maybe it wasn't that much. It was just a little bit. But I guess by doing that, I met so many more people that would come in and sub. Eventually, I met so many people from that then this other guitar player at that show left for Pretty Women the musical, and then he asked me to sub for him at Pretty Women. So I was subbing over there at Pretty Women, and then like that show closed. And then I started subbing at and my name got thrown out to have my own share for Clueless the musical, which was the off Broadway world premiere or whatever.
Mhm.
So like I had my own share, like a full time chair doing Clueless the musical off Broadway, and then of course it's like one thing just leads to the next. That's the whole thing with that whole scene. So and then that led to me doing Frozen, which is so I did Frozen, which I actually played that show a lot. I was in there
Mhm.
probably 3 4 times a week. Like I was in there a lot for that guy, um, because he was a really
Yeah, so
busy
you got
guy.
to play for one of our other grads because Harris Turner was the understudy for Kristoff in Frozen
That's
on
right. Yeah, I
Broadway.
know.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
connections. My lights have gone off here, so excuse me while I stand up to get. Whatever. I
No
guess we won't
worries.
have
No
lights in
worries.
here.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so I think Harris joined like right before the show like got shut down for COVID, I believe. I'm not totally
Yeah, I
sure,
think he
but
was with it for like
yeah,
4 or 5 months. Yeah.
yeah. But it was yeah, a super small world. I mean, I've seen Harris a few times in the city. He's doing amazing. So
He is.
yeah. But anyway, saying that, and then doing Frozen got me to do this got me to do that Jagged Little Pill show, like, but it's the
Oh
longest
yeah.
March set. Yeah, so I started doing that. So I've done a few of those shows before it closed for COVID.
Right.
Yeah. So anyways, which I never expected to have like a Broadway career, but I guess like I'm very grateful that I've been able to find that work in the city, and I'm sure I'll
Mhm.
be doing it for a while longer. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. So it's crazy. So basically what we want our students to understand is that diversify. You what you have like maybe as your path in mind might not be what is all encompassing for when you're out there in the real world kind of doing what you need to do. I also want to say
Mhm.
anybody who's watching, welcome to anybody who's watching. I see we've got some viewers. If you have any questions for Marc, just go ahead into the chat and ask those questions. I do want to warn you there's like a 30-second delay between what we see and what you see from us. So once we see those questions, we'll make sure that Marc can answer your question. So anything you're interested to know about life as a professional musician and Broadway. Also sounds like we might hear some stuff about uh, out in LA, which some kids might have that aspiration too. So um, I'm interested in. So I know you said you play piano, you play guitar. What other instruments have you kind of had fun with in this journey of playing in the world of theater?
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I mean, like in the Broadway world, yeah. So I've had to I've had to play mandolin, which is actually pretty easy for me because I also play violin, so they're very
Mhm.
similar. It's the same fingering, it's the same, it's like, but it's the same like tuning. So it's just like played like a guitar with a pick. So like, I mean, for me, mandolin is not too hard to play, but then I've also had to play banjo, which is like just not something I've ever done before. And the first time I ever played a banjo was for some, it wasn't for a Broadway show, but it was for some like smaller theater gig I did in like Westchester, but like it was the first time I ever played a banjo, so I would just go early and I'd practice the chords, and then that was good.
Oh my gosh,
So
that's crazy.
yeah. I mean, that's like part of the mentality. I think is like it's like used to be down to kind of play anything if they ask you to do it. Even though like the main part of that show might be like your main instrument. So for me it's guitar. So like they might ask like you to play like some weird thing. So I was telling Aaron before this that I think the craziest one was the School of Rock show. like the crazy thing about that was that all the guitar players had to play the recorder.
I think that's insane.
Yeah, so like I literally hadn't played that since like second grade, right, or
So
whatever
shout
that,
out to your
or
general ed
fourth
music
grade.
teacher, your general music teacher. Who was
Yeah,
that? Who did you I know I'm asking you to go way
all right,
back.
it's been so long. It's been so long.
That person's watching right now shouting, "Hey, it was me. I taught you
I'm
the
sure if you said it,
recorder."
I'm sure if you said it, I would totally remember, but I'm
Oh
just
gosh,
totally
and
blanking
see,
on
and
it.
I don't even know. There's been I don't know if there's been changeover. Sheila
Hmm.
Buck does elementary music. I don't know everybody's names, and everybody's kind of has been shuffled around a little bit. Um,
Totally.
Carol Lamica, I think, does elementary. Anyway, so that's funny. So second grade
Hmm.
general music coming back strong in your professional career.
Yeah, but it's so funny because like yeah, I mean yeah, it was like the weirdest thing because it's a rock show, and like everybody in that band is like super like amazing guitar players and you know, and drummers, and amazing drummer, amazing bassist, and there's two keyboard players, and like everybody in that band has done like really big time, like big time rock stuff, like the guy I was subbing for. So yeah, it's a good thing to note too real quick is like everybody that has those gigs generally like has done something amazing before getting that gig. It's like most of the people that play in these bands, especially as musicians, like I guess I guess like all the instrumentalists, they play for like big rock bands, big pop
Mm.
artists, and stuff like that. And the guy that I was subbing for, like he was Sting's guitar player for like for
Oh,
a while. So he was like Sting's guitar player in the '80s, and he played for Bon Jovi, he played for like a bunch of people. Like so he's had that kind of credibility that kind of got him to do these Broadway gigs. And like from being a great, like I guess a pretty successful sideman rock musician touring the world, that got him to being asked to play for, you know, for like Mamma Mia on Broadway and stuff like that. You know, and then I think Mamma Mia was a really long run, and then eventually he's just like he's in there, and he's an amazing guy, amazing musician, and it was cool that I got to connect with somebody like that who brought me on, you know. So and then but yeah, but it's like most people in these pits have some story like that where they're usually older and they've done stuff, and then they know it's kind of the theme of lots of these players, where I feel like the music directors generally have this kind of like, I think they kind of go to school for musical theater maybe, and like and they're kind of like more accompanists, and they come to the city and like they're like accompanying for people, right? And I
hmm
think that kind of leads into that's more like really in the musical theater scene, and you're like, and that kind of leads to you um kind of like eventually music directing a show maybe. It's like a whole
right.
it's like a little different scene than with instrumentalists. Like they're similar but they're different. So usually when they hire like instrumentalists, they look for like some credentials that you might have as an instrumentalist. And
Oh, nice.
it doesn't always mean that you like play like I guess another Broadway show. It might be like, oh, like he plays for like the Jonas Brothers and he plays for like this artist, and like so he must be a good rock guy. So and we're doing a rock musical, so maybe he would be a good fit. That's
Yeah,
kind of like
stylistically that makes sense.
exactly. So like if you only like I guess like I'm just saying like I think it's good to go after like the music aspirations you have too, because like that will lead to maybe doing Broadway as a gig too, you know. So for me, like having that jazz background and all that stuff, and have it kind of like I guess made me a good fit for reading and like all the jazz parts of the shows, and because I had that jazz credibility behind me, you know, too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a good thing to know for any instrumentalist that wants is like if you want to be if you're a string player, I guess, you know, being a great classical musician and really like doing that whole thing could be a great segue to get into doing pit work, because it's the same thing. It's like if you're if you have that credibility and that training, it's going to help you kind of get hired maybe. So that's a good thing to note maybe. But anyways, that was a
Yeah.
little side tangent. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, so I'm trying to think kind of like the different things. I'm very fascinated listening to this. So what kind of stuff have you done in LA or with connections in LA? You mentioned the network there. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yes, um, it's like one of my bigger like shows that I've done was like, this guy, do you know that guy that guy from Dancing with the Stars, the guy Derek Huff? He's like
oh
that
yeah.
famous
Oh yeah, I
dancer.
love him and his sister.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I'm like friends with the guys that play in the band for him, and like I know his music director now. So like I've done I did a one off here, and it was here in New York City actually, and we did the NBC July 4th like on TV, like the whole like thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. That
Yeah,
was so neat.
yeah. So I did that with him, and that was really cool. That was a one off though, but that was a really cool day. Like we were just like, you know. Like there's like 20 million viewers on TV. It was
Yeah.
like crazy. That was like really that was a really big one. That was awesome.
Yeah. And now
Um,
for the people who are watching, can you talk about what you say that one off? What does that mean? Because that's
oh
maybe
yeah,
lingo that some
yeah,
of
yeah.
our
So
kids don't
yeah,
know.
so yeah, totally. So it's a job that you do for literally one day and then it's done. So it's kind of like you have this amazing day. Like I was, like you're basically a rock star for that day. Like I have like I have the credentials. I think I have it over here. Like, but I have a bunch of like I have a bunch of my lanyards.
Oh,
From gigs. Um, but like yeah, it's just like a gig you do for one day and then it's done. And like maybe you'll
one and
do
then
more
you're
stuff.
off.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly. I mean, that's kind of like the side man life. It's like you might like it's like you get to work with amazing people and then like you might but it's not always full time, like you do it every day. So but I mean it's like that it's like that for some people. Like if you go on tour with him, like it's your full-time gig for 4 months or 5 months, and then you
Hmm.
come back to the city and then you have to move on with your life. That's kind of like
Yeah.
the weird part about being a musician or maybe an actor too. Is like it's like once the gig is done, you're kind of like looking for the next one. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And what do you do in like the interim? What do you kind of do to always keep steady and surviving, especially during COVID right now? I mean, a lot of artists are really struggling right now because everything was shut down.
Yeah, I mean, like for me personally, I've been able to teach like some lessons, which has been good. So like I do lots of virtual lessons on Zoom, and then I do and like weirdly enough, even though it probably wasn't the safest, but like I've been playing at a bunch of gospel churches in
Oh,
Brooklyn, like for most of this. So that's been amazing. So like on Sundays, I'm playing like two services, and like now I'm playing on Tuesdays as well, which is it's amazing music, amazing musicians. So I'm doing that like during the week and stuff. So that's been amazing. But I mean, we're taking all the protocols with
of course.
it's like yeah, I mean, and it's mainly a live. It's everything is like live streamed with like
Ah,
minimal people there. But so that's it's usually like a choir, and then like I'm in the bands, of course, and they're filming it. They're filming it, and yeah. So I've been doing that, and I've been teaching. So yeah, so like, I've been kind of staying busy, and so I do those things. I also do home recording too. So I do lots of home recording sessions for people, usually my friends or people in the industry that call me. So yeah.
that's fun. Um, what do you think? What kind of advice might you give to some students who are looking at and interested in thinking about college and then the next steps. I mean, I think most of our students are thinking about like, where am I going to go to school? What are
hmm
those steps that you might give? What advice might you tell them to consider as they're looking to start paving the way for um, their
Yeah,
world outside of the
totally.
RH halls?
Totally. I mean, is there any students that are kind of like interested in doing like I guess like instrumental stuff or like I guess like for singing or
Oh, we've
for
got kids.
musical
I think
theater
we've
or
got kids
like
in all of those aspects who are, you know, looking at both
yeah.
music ed, but what if they're interested in kind of going your route? What would you suggest? Like getting into a pit band and all that. You've said some of the things, but
Yeah. So I feel like you just gotta find whatever style you want to focus on first. Because I guess nowadays it's like you don't have to just do classical music or you don't have to just do jazz. I guess like there's a few schools like I went to Berkeley, which is a jazz school, but like you can be like a bluegrass musician and like really study bluegrass like at the highest degree of bluegrass and do that at Berkeley. And
uh-huh,
you can even be like a hip hop producer and get into Berkeley. It's kind of like this weird school where you can like that, but like these are the people that are teaching there, and like and the whole network there is just really huge, and like you're gonna know some people in the industry that are gonna help you. Probably like everybody's gonna work together, and you're gonna have some amazing network of people to do some stuff. But I think like just really focus on like um whatever kind of thing you are truly passionate about. Like if you don't love doing classical music, then maybe don't do that. It's just like I think it's just best to really go after that true passion of yours. Or if it's musical theater, then definitely find some musical theater program that you're able to get into and go for it. Because like I guess like the network that you meet at college is gonna be like your new best friends, and they're gonna be working with them forever. So most likely. But I mean, I guess the advice I also have is like definitely practice a lot. Like practicing was huge for me. So I definitely took practicing very seriously. I guess more seriously than I got in high school. So I definitely would. I got way more serious about what I would. I guess knowing that I wanted to kind of study music, so I would practice like sight reading. I would practice my improvisation over jazz chords.
hmm
I was doing all that. So I would learn my all my jazz scales right over certain chords, and I was working on my ear training. Ear training was huge for me. So I I know Sean Joseph is, he's still there, so he's a great reference for all that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he's
um,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, the biggest thing was like I know some of these schools are so expensive, so like that's the other thing. It's like you might not think you can afford to go to like a Berkeley or like I guess like a new school here in New York City or like any of those like or like Miami and stuff like that. But like if you really just practice, you might actually have a good chance of getting a scholarship.
Right.
Because a lot of these scholarships are just based on like on talent or like on the audition. So like if you can really just like go in there and just like blow them away, you might have a good shot. So it's just worth noting that. It was like that. It was like that at Berkeley. Like so many people got like 50% off, and again, even myself. Like I remember on my first audition, I didn't get any scholarship, and I was like, oh, I don't think we can do this. And then my second audition, I got like 40% off or something like that, and I was like, okay, so this is a little bit more doable. So like with my family situation, of course.
Right.
So, but it's good to know that too. So if you really just like know where you're auditioning and what they look for and what their audition process is like, every school is different. But I knew Berkeley was like big on ear training and big on some jazz improvisations and also just being like a kind of creative individual. So anyways, it's just like I kind of prepped my audition towards that. So I got my sight reading up, I got my ear training together, and all that stuff. So I think hopefully that was some good advice. But
Yeah, that's really
yeah.
nice. I like that you said, and that's actually advice for anybody who's looking at any school for any major, research
Hmm.
your school, figure out what they're looking for, and make sure that you have the skills necessary to get to where you want to be. I think that's great advice for
Hmm.
anybody who's looking at
Totally.
after, and that's jobs, that's everything in life, prep yourself so that
Totally.
you're marketable. Is that's You need to be marketable in this world today. Um,
Yeah.
What why don't you? This is like let's go down memory lane a little bit. Do you want to? Can you talk about just some of the stuff you did while you were in high school? I think it's neat for the kids to and for everybody to hear about like what ensembles, what shows, what things did you do here? Even if you weren't in the pit here for any of our
Yeah.
shows, what were you involved in while you were in high school,
Yeah. So
musically and otherwise?
yeah, totally. I mean, it was mainly music stuff, I guess. I didn't do any sports or anything like that, but yeah. So I was doing so I was playing violin like in the orchestra, right? So I was doing that with Nancy Guilfoyle. I know she's not there anymore,
Oh,
but
she retired, yeah.
yeah. But so I was playing violin with the orchestra, and I was also doing the chamber orchestra, which was like which was like it was like Tuesday nights. You come in, and it was a really nice time. I also did a jazz ensemble with Sean Joseph, um, and then I did do some pits too, like whenever they asked me to, because I was the only guitar player, I think, really. So like, was one of the only guitar players. I think there was somebody else too, but
Right.
um, but I would do. I remember I did Xanadu. We did Xanadu a long time ago, I
Yeah.
think. So yeah, so I played that, and I was the only student in that band. It was like mainly faculty and a few Eastman School of Music people. But so yeah,
Yeah,
so
because
I
that
did.
was that real popular,
It was a pop
popular
show.
music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 exactly. I also did. I think we did a Vita, I think, once.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you played for that too?
Yeah, I did that. I think that might have been it. I didn't do too much musical theater at Red Rita, but I definitely did those two. So that's
Well, yeah,
definitely,
the shows
yeah,
that cater to what you did. That makes sense.
yeah, yeah.
Um, nice. Gosh, it's so funny. I'm like my head's swirling here with all of this stuff. So, what um, what do you think like during COVID with the shutdown? Like, what do you see as like kind of what's happening to the arts? Maybe in your experience, and maybe you can give us an insider info on what because I know we're all eagerly awaiting. I'm just waiting for the day I get the email that says I can actually pay for my RBTL, season
Yeah, yeah,
tickets and actually go back and see a show and concerts and all
totally.
that. So, I mean, we're seeing concerts are scheduled. Do you have anything lined up? Are you hearing anything about restrictions and all of that laxing so we can get back out and
Totally.
enjoy?
Yo, totally. I mean, like honestly, like I think this is the first time that I can actually say I can see the light at the end of the tunnel now. I can actually see it now, which is amazing, especially in New York City, because it's like I've been here the whole time. So like even just from seeing like indoor dining coming back in the city,
Hmm.
which is amazing, and like lots of musicians do like restaurant gigs and bar gigs and stuff like that, and so I've been doing some gigs myself and seeing more lively things happening here is amazing. As far as Broadway goes, I think that'll be one of the. I personally think that'll come back in about like around September. So
Oh,
it's
good.
looking like I've gotten some emails from people, and it's looking like September. is about the time when that will be coming back. So, yeah, I mean, but it's like nobody can say for sure, but like that's the most optimistic date that we can have right now is September. So,
Right.
um, but yeah. So I mean, for myself, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but I'm actually the shareholder for an off-Broadway show right now. So I'll be back.
Oh,
I'm actually doing Little Shop of Horrors, like the revival that
uh-huh.
happened. So yeah,
Nice.
yeah, so I was doing that for about I was doing that full time for about like a month, maybe a month and a half before the shutdown. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to that coming back. It'd be nice to have a job to go back to once all this is done. So
Yeah, and that's good to hear that, because
yeah.
I mean, I think people kind of once you hear that, Frozen closed and they're not reopening,
Hmm.
that scares people a little because it's Disney. It's just like this mass conglomerate. But I love hearing that, something smaller is still kicking and ready to jump back in. I think that's the power of the arts, right? That
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, it's different because like it's like weird that like I think the two shows or some of the shows that have closed like already on Broadway where I guess like they were all like the bigger produced shows like Disney and I think Mean Girls, which is produced by it's produced by like Lorne Michaels from
mhm,
NBC, and stuff like that. And like it's kind of weird that like those shows closed because I know they were doing very well before this.
right.
And like the shows that weren't doing so well are still planning on opening. So it's just, I mean, I think for like somebody like Disney, I think Frozen was the weaker link of the shows.
Right.
So for them, it's just, for
Go
them, it's
figure,
like, oh,
sold out. You had to stand in line to get tickets, but that's the weak link.
I mean,
That's so funny.
it's the weaker link for Disney shows, I guess, comparing
Right.
it to like Aladdin and Lion King, from what I could tell. I know Frozen
Wow.
was about like it would sell like 80 to 85% capacity most weeks, which is really good,
Mhm.
but like Lion King is sold out like 100% most of the time,
And
probably.
on
So
national
yeah.
tours and yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that's kind of really confusing that they would close Frozen, but I'm sure Disney's gonna do something else.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
always something in the wings. And it's so funny to watch how, in that scene that, suddenly, Hamilton came to Disney streaming mid.
Yeah.
I think they posted that way earlier than they were planning on. But how
Totally.
many Disney Plus subscriptions were signed up for as soon as that announcement hit? People
So
just like
many. So many.
give it
Yeah.
to me so I can watch it. Um, what are some of like your favorite shows?
Oh, like on Broadway?
Anything, if shows, anything. I mean, obviously, Little Shop, which is fun because were you here when we did that crossover thing with Jiva for Little
I, I,
Shop?
I don't think so.
It might have been right after you graduated.
Yeah.
But just what are some of the shows that like make you maybe want to keep going back to a pit band in a theater
Yeah.
production?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's really just kind of like it's more like the vibe in the pit for me. It's like who's playing in the band. So, it really is a big deal for me. And and yeah, and like of course, like what style of music it is really makes a big deal. It's like there's certain shows I don't think I'd be happy playing every day.
Hmm.
Well, I guess like it's hard to be picky when I guess when you're given some kind of opportunity like that. But of course, like you also want to be happy too. So you have to kind of
Hmm.
choose whatever makes you happy. If you can, if you have some choice.
Right.
Um, I mean, I really enjoyed playing Frozen because Frozen was more like going to like an office. That was what I mean. I mean, playing a Broadway pit is like going to an office. It's like you do the same thing every single day, and
Hmm.
the same music. There's not as much creativity in it. It's like it doesn't mean it's not fun because it's every day it's a challenge, mental challenge to kind of see if you can execute every day. And so like that's kind of like I personally like that challenge of having to execute something very well every day. Like that's kind of a cool challenge. And like but I think Frozen was one of the really fun ones because like I was in some separate room. I was totally isolated with the bass player. So we were just hanging out in the room. And like of course in between songs we're just like chatting and stuff. It's even though you're not really everybody does.
Right.
It's a little, yeah. I mean, it's definitely like it's a high profile gig, but like it's like there's a little bit of looseness because we're isolated. And but as long as you're playing great and you're being professional, then that's the main thing. But anyways, Frozen was
I
really
love that.
fun.
That's insane to think about
Yeah,
because in most people, when you think of a pit, you think, we think of our experience where, I mean, in our auditorium, it's everybody's there. Like you got to be on it and you can't be messing around or chatting because you're in front of everybody. But the idea that professionally pits are now and they're getting so creative with where they place pits. Like, are they on the stage? Are they, it's, it's
yeah.
really neat to see
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, I'll definitely say it's like I mean. I mean, like it's like you definitely have to be like super professional and be like very prepared. But like as long as that's together, it's like yeah, there's definitely some room to like I just like talking to like the next player, and you can. But like it depends on where the pit is too. If you're playing
Right,
Wicked and like you're right there and you can see like some audience members from down below, you should like that pit will not allow anything like that. And like
right.
you know what I mean, like so every pit situation is different. You know, it's like School of Rock was totally isolated in a whole separate room. There's no way anybody could hear any voices, you know, or anything like that. And there's no string instruments. Everything was electric. So like there was no microphones that could pick up anything, right?
Oh, wow.
So yeah, yeah. I mean, I probably shouldn't be saying like you should, it's okay to talk to people, but like yeah, you can do that.
Well, no,
That happen.
but I
Yeah,
think that's part of the interesting
yeah.
experience for people to know because I didn't ever know about, you don't think about it because you're watching a show, you're in the moment, you're enjoying it, you're not thinking about what's happening behind the scenes. So how does that even work? Like this might be too technical. How does that even, you're in a separate room? How does, like, you just play and it's just they have it feed out? I mean, that's crazy to think.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, yeah. So, I mean, yeah. So, like, for like, yeah. So basically, like, they have like all the mics if they're needed. Like, if there's like violin players and stuff like that, the violins have mics, and the drummer is usually isolated in some booth. So, like, he's very quiet generally. So he's in a sound booth, so it's totally isolated. And they have everything is mic'd up and everything. And the guitar players are plugged into some kind of amp or maybe some kind of like speaker simulator type of thing that doesn't really produce any sound but goes out into the house, you know? So yeah, so everything is very like well controlled as far as the volume goes and everything
Yeah.
and the
So
setup. Yeah.
I hate to do this. My thing just totally shut down.
All
You were
good, all good.
talking, and it's
Oh no.
again that there's connection issues. What the
Oh no,
heck?
no worries.
Girl, because she's
Okay.
um we just lost because it says all right, I think it says on air, so I guess we're probably okay. I'm just checking with Mrs. Diana here.
It should
Um
be good, hopefully.
yeah, it looks like. All right, so sorry about that. So I mean go back
No
to
worries.
I think we made it to when it started popping kind of where you were just talking about, and sorry if we're going to repeat for anybody who's watching,
All
but
good. All
I
good.
think it was where you were kind of talking about you're all in an isolated room. There's all the mics, and that's kind of the last thing I remember before I started freaking out because things were changing on me.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, so yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like everything is just kind of like isolated in some room usually. So like, yeah, so yes, like all the violin players have they're all like they all have like overhead mics. So like they're kind of like playing, and there's some mic that will pick up their sound, and the guitar players are plugged into like an amp that's like maybe in like might be like a separate room. So like the
Hmm.
so like the sound will be isolated, so everything is just very isolated now, and like as far as the sound goes, so like it's like the sound never really bleeds out into the audience. So like the sound is only coming out of the front speakers, really. So it's different for like a full orchestra. Like Frozen, it was like
Right.
underneath the stage, generally
Hmm.
speaking, except for the rhythm section. Like everybody that played like guitar, bass, drums, were all like all those rock band instruments were all isolated in separate rooms. But everybody that was like a string player or like a woodwind player, brass, like all those people they were all in like the very traditional pit that was seen from the audience member if you walked up to the front and looked
Right.
down, you know what I mean? So like it was a kind of like a difference. Like it's like everybody that was in the orchestra had to probably dress more traditional, like black button down shirts, stuff like that. But if you're like a rhythm section player because you weren't seen, as long as you're just wearing all black, like a black t-shirt kind of like this, you're totally okay.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's like a little less formal if you're not seen, but if you are seen, a little more formal. But yeah, it's like all the setups are so different now. It really depends on the show. Like
Yeah,
there's
that's
no one way of doing it now. So
and I love
yeah.
that because that's bringing in like that. I would think that would give the sound techs like lots of leeway that they can control levels a little bit more and really,
Hmm.
if everything's being piped in through the same kind of system. That's neat. I love that.
Hmm.
Because the last show I saw before everything shut down was Jesus Christ Superstar on tour, and they had everyone was on the stage. From what at least I thought so. I mean, they had like these levels and all like they were in on the stage in different levels. So I don't know how difficult that was to hear. I mean, I just they must. I mean, it's just insane to me all
Yeah.
the different ways
Well,
they do that.
totally. Well, yeah, like nice. Yeah. So like I actually taught guitar lessons to the cast of Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. yeah. I mean, it was like for like a week or 2 weeks. I was teaching like I was teaching the actors who hadn't really played that much guitar. Like all the actors in the not all of them, but some of the actors who hadn't played guitar that had to play
Hmm.
guitar on the show. I was giving them lessons like in the rehearsals and stuff like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so crazy. So
so
anybody who
funny.
saw
Yeah.
that show, like you worked with them. And that's what's so
Hmm.
neat is like you kind of said this that it's a small, like it's a massive city, but such a small community sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And like again, like I mean, it's a good point to make. Like, it's like the scene is very small, so like it's like your reputation is really big. Like if as long as you're like if you're always prepared and you're always doing a good job, then you're probably gonna. And you're also fun to be around too. Like you don't want to be like it's not good to be. It's really not good to be too eager. About stuff. Like you want to be super like relaxed and you want to be super just like even if it's like like a very big show, it's like you have to treat it like very just casually and like respectfully. You know what I mean? Because like it's the worst if you see somebody who's like way too eager and like they're just trying to network very hard with everybody. Like
Yeah.
that's the worst, and that's a very bad. You know what I mean? At least for me,
Right.
anyways. Like it's just kind of like what is this guy doing? Yeah, like you know what I mean?
So,
Like
so, but the advice would be like reach out, make casual, and people remember, that
yeah,
if you're
yeah,
willing to
totally.
put yourself out there.
Totally, totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so neat. That's so neat. Um, so what do you so tell us about Little Shop, what you're doing with that. Like what's it mean to be a shareholder in a show like this and what's the goal eventually for the crew that's working on that? And when I say crew, I mean everybody involved.
Yeah. So yeah, so for me in my case, like I was like late to joining like the whole crew there because like I was actually subbing for this. I was subbing for the guy that was that the guy that had that chair, and then like and like and the guy that had that chair actually left for a Broadway chair because like he was kind of
Mhm,
like in between Broadway shows, and like he was offered an off Broadway show, so it's like might as well take the work when he's like gonna have some downtime. So yeah,
mhm,
so he was doing Little Shop for like 3 4 months, and I was subbing for him there when he was taking off and stuff. So I was subbing for him there, and then he left, and he actually threw my name in the ring, that to actually take over full time. So and that, yeah, which was amazing. So yeah, so like it's not me on the cast album or anything. So like the
right.
cast album was like the original band, but I'm still part of that band now though, and it's amazing. It's a really good show. It's like that. It's like and it's a funny pit because like the guitar and the keyboard and the music director are like we're like elevated on this up on this ladder in some
Mhm.
corner, and so we're over there, and then the drummer and the bass player on like some other side of the theater. So it's like
Wow.
we're kind of that we're all isolated, but everything is connected by cameras though. So like everybody has a camera of the music director, right? So like every music stand has like a little screen, like with the performance and with the music director, so you can see the show as it's happening, and you can see the music director too. So that's a good point to know out too. Like it's like we can see the show and the music director on a little tiny like monitor on the music stand. So
Well, and that's cool
yeah.
to think how because the technology, everybody's the stuff that's in your face is the LED screens, Anastasia with
Hmm.
had that big, but that everything technologically is being able to. So it seems like gone are the days when you have to crane your neck to see the conductor or the
Yeah.
music director. It's like
Exactly.
it's
It's
right
it's
here
not like that.
next
Yeah.
to my music.
Exactly. Well, it's also good to note. It's also good to note too that like it's good to note that we all like we all wear we all wear these things called in-ear monitors. Basically, kind of like they're kind of that's like very professional headphones. They're very high quality, and
Mm,
you can kind of customize them. And like mine are customized to actually fit the specs of my ear. If you watch like some TV performance and you see like I don't know, you said the Jonas Brothers or something, and they have those things in their ears, right? And so I guess like those are called in-ear monitors. So everybody's either wearing headphones or in-ear monitors in a Broadway pit now. So and we have our own mixes on the Avion mixer, which is like so basically like all the woodwinds, the strings, and the conductor's talkback mic if he's going to talk to us about anything. And so everything is in the mixer, which is everything that's in the house is in my own mixer. So I can turn up the strings, I can turn down the woodwinds, I can turn up the drummer, I can control all of that from my seat, and it's all coming into my ears. So like it's like the sound situation is very nice. So it's not like you can't hear the drummer or anything like that. So you're not playing it. So it's good to be locked in with him, right? So like you want to make sure you can hear him. So it's like everything is very controlled, and you can also see everything on the screen. So like there's no situation where like you might not have to where like you can't see the conductor or something like that. You know what I mean? So everything is very figured out, right?
Yeah,
So
that's nice because it helps with the efficiency of the pit, but also just you can be your best musician self because you're not straining to hear somebody or see somebody. It looks like some
exactly, yeah.
I've asked a question to have you explain what chair holder means.
Oh, so like it basically means like you have the job. It's your job. Yeah, so it's like it basically means like it's like you're full time, it's your gig, and you have all the responsibilities that come along with that. So shareholder basically means, yeah, it's like you're offered to have that responsibility of playing that show 8 times a week. And if you're gonna take off and you're not, and if you're like if you're gonna call out sick or you're gonna do some other gig, then that means you're responsible for training all of your subs. It means like so basically when you subbing is how you get into it, which is obviously how I got into it. Subbing is probably harder than having the chair because if you have the gig, it means you do all the rehearsals and you're just part of that whole learning process. But it's like when you sub, it's like you don't get any rehearsal at all. When you sub, like you're just thrown in and you do it. And if you do bad, you don't get called back. So, anyways, so like as a shareholder though, like it's like that's big responsibility. It's big responsibility as well because whoever you bring in kind of reflects on you. So like now you have to make sure your subs are really good, qualified people, and they're going to do a good job. So that's kind of the whole thing there too. So like, and there's a whole bunch of other things for being a shareholder too, which is it's like obviously like for all this stuff you have to be in the music union. So it's like one of the few music union jobs you have to, like it's impossible to do these gigs and not be in the union because it's not allowed. You wouldn't be able to do it, you know. Um, and the cool thing is like when you have a shareholder, if you're the shareholder, then like and you work enough in the union, then you can get health insurance like through the union, which is like really a great deal for any freelance musician. So like there's like stuff like that. There's some really good perks about it, just and
Mhm.
also you're making really good money too. So you can't complain about that.
Well, that's why unions are protecting that. So I was actually talking to somebody about there, and she mentioned there are like two music unions. Am I right or
Well,
wrong?
no, like there's like one union and there's different like I guess like depends on like if like like there's different local regions of the union, but it's
Okay,
the same bigger union. But like there's different unions for acting. For acting,
right,
there's like the film and TV one that's called
right,
SAG, and then there's like the equity, which is like
right.
for musical theater, yeah. But I mean, yeah, for music, it's just it's and also for no, also for music, it's like you don't have to be like that. It's not like you have to get points or like audition for it or anything like that. It's a little simpler. All you do is pay a fee and sign up, and you're in it. But the difference is like there's no auditions for these gigs I'm talking about. Like there's no auditions for any of this. It's all just like it's all networking and just getting in there. So
Right,
yeah.
and I didn't realize that shareholders were. I mean, in our world, we think about if I have to call in, somebody else calls a sub for me. So that's really interesting and good to know that there's that whole other level. It's not just you show up and play your music. You also have
hmm
to manage your own time, and if you are choosing something else, I mean, I can't imagine waking up sick and then you have to find somebody who can show up for you. That's an added level of pressure. So that's
Oh, oh my God. I do have a story about that if there's time.
yeah. Oh,
I
you've
do.
plenty of time.
I'm
Tell.
okay. So here's the craziest story that happened to me. I'm very grateful. It means that I must be liked and wanted on some of these shows, but like which is obviously like a huge blessing. And it's the first time in my New York career where it's like I've been so like I've just kind of like I had way too many things happening. It's either like you don't have as many things happening or just everything happens at once. That's always how it is as
Hmm,
a freelance kind of player. So like I was offered like the low shovel, so I took it. But then I was talking to a musical contractor, who's the guy who is like your boss essentially, who hires everybody, controls the orchestra essentially. And ironically, he was also the guitar player for Frozen. Anyway, I was subbing for him a lot. But anyways, I was doing Little Shop of Horrors, but I could sub that out to fill in to still play Frozen. So basically, I was like, and I was still doing Jagged Little Pill as well. So I was doing 3 shows. I was kind of balancing 3 shows for like a little bit before COVID happened, and like I was training my new sub, and my sub like did I thought he did pretty well in the first show, and so I booked him for like 3 shows in a row because I was gonna play Frozen all weekend. So anyways, and like there was some issue where with my sub, and the conductor wasn't very happy with his performance, unfortunately. And like, and the thing is, my sub was very qualified. Like he's done Broadway shows for years, and I don't, I,
right.
maybe he just didn't prep as hard or something like that. I don't really know. But anyway, but it was funny because I was doing Frozen, And then the conductor from Little Shop called me. He's like, hey man, like, your sub, like, no, I need you to come back tomorrow, basically. So I was like, dude, I'm booked at Frozen all weekend, and so I had to call all the Frozen subs that I knew to see who could like fill in. So I called the main guy, but he was busy. He was out of town, so he couldn't
Uh-huh.
do it. And then so basically we had to kind of like call all the other subs. But the thing about that is all the other subs are probably playing other shows. So I was it's like so all the subs that I called were like, well, I'm playing Dear Evan Hansen today. I'm playing Wicked. I'm playing this show. And then it's just like so everybody had to kind of find subs for those shows so they could accommodate my situation.
Oh my gosh, that's
No, and then
insane.
no, and then in the midst of all that, like I was having lunch on like that Saturday, and then the music director for Jagged Little Pill calls me. Like there was some issue with their guitar player, and he asked me to fill in. I was like, oh, I would have done it, but I would have been at Frozen, but I'm doing Little Shop, and if I wasn't doing that, I would have done it. But it was just
That,
like,
and that's what's neat to know for that
yeah,
you could have, I mean, and you could be playing a different, literally every day of the week playing a different show, but having that in your brain and knowing that music,
it's
I
hard,
mean,
super hard. Yeah, I mean, like
yeah.
yeah, like subbing's not for everybody. Like subbing on Broadway is not for everybody. If you can
Hmm.
handle that pressure and you can learn all that music, like then totally do it. Like I'm super into the challenge of it, and it definitely keeps you fresh. But I would much rather have my own chair and just kind of like relax for a little bit and just have
Enjoy
that
it, right?
and have that consistency. Um, but I mean, I do know guys that like literally make their living subbing on shows. Like this one guy that I know, he's kind of like just known for subbing. Like he subs on 10 shows. Like he subs on, but he subs on like he subs literally on everything. Like he subs on, I mean literally everything. I mean, I guess like name a show. I mean, he subs on Wicked. He's been doing that forever. He subs on, he was in Moulin Rouge. He was doing Come From Away, Frozen, like everything. Like he was just like very in demand. So like so he was playing about 5 shows or 6 shows a week just as a sub, which is almost full time. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
and I mean, you want to talk about diversity, like playing Come From Away. I mean, that's such a
Yeah,
stylized type of, and then the next night you're at Frozen. I mean, that's crazy. More
exactly. Well, I mean,
traditional, versus,
exactly. Yeah, it's a whole thing. I mean, and it's also good to note too that like I think if you have like a certain style that like you're kind of known for, that's why or it's kind of like your thing. Like just like stick to that because like that actually might get you all like yeah. So if you're an amazing rock musician or rock guitar player, like you
Mhm.
might actually book like all the chairs for like just that amazing like that I guess that call for like an amazing rock guitar player or rock drummer. So like School of Rock is a rock gig. Pretty Women was a rock show and like Rock of Ages, obviously that was a while ago, but that was a rock show. And there's also like Moulin Rouge, which is like a pop rock show. So
Yeah.
basically, like there's all this new pop rock stuff, and if you're specialized in like that and you're really really good at that, you might get called for all of those. Or if you're kind of like the guy who does a little of everything, you might just be like known as the guy who can do everything and just kind of circulate around that all the folk shows and maybe and the not folk, but like just you could do folk, classical, pop,
Yeah.
jazz shows, like everything, which is not a bad thing either. So like it's just good to maybe have like a specialty sometimes, that
Hmm.
kind of makes you more desired in that one thing. But you know, there's a million ways to get a gig, so that's the thing.
Well, I think that's good to note that it's like you kind of have those choices that decide, do you want to be a specialty? You want to be jack of all trades, if you will, that you have those
Yeah,
options, that it's not just one thing, one style. It's the only thing you can do. You have options. I
mhm,
mean, I think that's cool, and
totally.
that's how theater is great. That's evolving, and we're not, it's not just the traditional show that we think of. I mean, we talk about that sometimes. The idea of like, go back to the Cole Porter and Gershwin, kind of those
Hmm.
traditional shows, and all the way to now, it's all this kind of rock stuff with minimalistic sets, and that's what's awesome about it's all aspects are changing. So that's really neat. Um,
Totally.
we're looking at about 10 minutes, and I don't know if I hope people aren't commenting and I'm not seeing it, but I haven't seen anybody other than what Cheryl has asked me to pass along.
Okay. Yeah,
But
me neither.
yeah, so that's
Yeah,
yeah, it looks like she's going to respond to me. That's why you have 17 screens going at once. Thank goodness for
gotcha.
technology.
Yeah,
Um, I,
exactly.
so I guess in our last kind of few minutes, if anybody's watching who has some questions, we do have some viewers. If there's anything you want to know, um, anything you want to ask Mark about what he's doing, what he's. All right, so somebody wants to know about other instruments besides guitar and recorder in the pit. Yeah, he talked about mandolin, but
Yeah.
anything else you just itching to learn or you want to?
Oh,
Something,
like other instruments that I want to learn, or like
yeah,
or oh, okay.
or that you're working on now to kind of become
I mean, I don't really work on other instruments personally, but it's more like
the time, right?
if I'm asked to do something, yeah, I'd say like I'll learn it. But I mean, yeah, I mean, again, I've done banjo, mandolin, recorder, which is like I haven't touched the recorder in years because I haven't done that show since it closed, 2 years ago, but
Mhm,
or 3 years ago, whatever it was. But yeah, but I mean, for me, yeah, I mainly focus on guitar, but I do work on piano. I mean, again, I'm not really a piano player, but I work on piano like here and there, just kind of like for because I'm doing like production stuff. This is my little setup back here.
right.
But I have a keyboard, so I'm kind of like
Uh-huh.
just practicing and I work on production and stuff like that. Also, that's a good thing too. The note too is like I think music production is like really important to know, like as far as recording and like Logic, which comes on like it's kind of like GarageBand, like knowing how to
Mhm,
record yourself and is very important nowadays for everything, every aspect, the musical theater, the pop world, all of that. So
mhm,
it's good to kind of know how to use a microphone, have an interface, and all that good stuff. So, anyways, that's a good side note because I think that because like that's an instrument within itself is knowing how to record yourself and know
mhm.
how to use music production tools, which is not like it's not very traditional. It's more of a new thing, but that's just the way the music world is going. Is like everybody can record themselves from home now, so you should probably know how to do that. That's a good thing to know how to do. So
And then you just send it and
yeah.
it's kind of somebody else mixes it and blends it all together.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or just like for like creating your own music. If you're a composer and you want to create, like it's like you can create everything from home now. I can literally play piano stuff. I can like make fake drums. I can make fake like bass sounds. I can do all of that just to kind of get some demo made, and I can show it to the band guys. And like there's literally like it will sound close to what that is, but just better once the band musician or the musicians play it. So
Right.
you know what I mean?
But you
So
really
yeah,
get the sense of, right, well, it's not just in your it doesn't just live in your head anymore.
exactly. So it's a really amazing skill to know how to do because like it's kind of like just kind of staying up to date with the times, having a nice computer like a MacBook and you can do all that stuff. So yeah.
And did you do any formal stuff with that, or have you kind of self-taught and learn as you go?
Well, I mean, like luckily Berkeley really emphasized that in a way. So like it's like Berkeley kind of like when you as part it was part of the tuition was like getting a MacBook Pro with like Finale, Logic, Pro Tools, like all
Mhm,
that software came on it, and so like that's pretty amazing. And like yeah, and I was actually in a few like basic classes for Pro Tools, and like kind of creating like MIDI stuff, and really just kind of like making projects like that. So yeah, so basically like I would be in like so basically like there was no excuse for any student to be like, well, I don't know how to do that, or I don't have like the tools because they're kind of given to you. So
mhm.
so basically like for any composition class that I took or any type of like harmony or ear training course, like they might make you write some composition or something, and you have to kind of make like your homework is literally is to write it out like very traditionally, but then also make a demo of it on your computer and then you send the sound file to your teacher, and then the teacher will like listen to it in class and then judge it. So it's kind of like a really amazing tool for that. Just kind of hear your own creations back. So
Yeah, I
oh
love that.
yeah.
What kind of production stuff have you done?
I mean, it's really just like nothing of mine's like really like as like hit it big or anything, but like it's I just do it for me it's just like recording guitar parts for other people,
Mhm,
and even some other like new musicals that are actually like maybe like some like Broadway stuff and some pop stuff and stuff like that. But it's funny is I've actually recorded like some stuff for Derek Huff like in a home
mhm.
studio, just at home like that was played on TV. The funny thing, it's like it could be done at home, but then they could be like sent out to be on TV. It's kind of crazy. But
Right,
I haven't personally produced anything that's like been on the radio or like on
right.
Spotify yet. But yeah, but it's a good thing to know. I mean, for me, it's like my instrument that I'm getting better at that I'm learning every day. So yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I love that. So I think we're wrapping up here. We've got about 5 minutes left or so. What I guess in the end, what this is just kind of like a basic question, but what's your favorite part about, I feel like you're living your best life right now. It sounds like you're just the joy you have with what you're talking about. What's your favorite part about what you do every day?
I mean, yeah, I mean, like the best part. I mean, of course, everything's different right now because of COVID. But I
Right.
guess once things come back, I guess the best thing for me is like I mean, I guess I don't want like my like identity to be like a Broadway musician because it's really not. It's like Broadway is just part of what I do. You know, it's
Hmm.
just like it's really just part of what I do. But I wouldn't. I mean, of course, it helps me. It's a good financial situation. It helps me survive in the city, but it's
Hmm.
also really fun. Like I actually enjoy it. You know, but for me, it's like doing different things brings me happiness. So it's really just like I think for me performing on a stage with a band is like my ultimate happy place, you know. So like
Hmm.
so I play for a bunch of singers and I play in bands and we're always
Hmm.
playing clubs in the city. Yeah, so like yeah like I mean like shameless plug, like I even have my own fusion trio and that we have music on Spotify and all that. So
Oh,
it's
nice.
just it's kind of like instrumental jazz fusion stuff like that. So
Is there a
so I
link
mean
for that on your website?
it should be on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we linked. So if anybody's interested in that, we linked Mark's website on our website. So, but it's just markmalsegna.com, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
check it out there. And that's I love going and looking because I think it's just so impressive what all of you are doing. Excuse me. And when I went to your website, I was like, this is like legit. You know, it's so impressive to see
Oh, thanks.
what you've built and what you're doing, and it just the pride that we all feel here. You know, send out the website with all your names and everything you've done, and just the teachers, everybody just remembers all of you, and it's like, yeah, it's so great to see. And even on the Facebook post, you know, classmates of yours were like, I remember watching him grow, like, and like even other
Oh,
kids are
wow.
just so excited, you know. It's so I think it's really neat to, and thanks so much again for coming on and talking with us. It's been really interesting hearing. I've learned a lot, so thank you so much. And everybody, this is Mark, and check out his website. And we have another talk back today at 5:30 with Bridget Klein and Chris Wazowski. We're going to be talking about costuming and hair and makeup. And check out our website for the rest of the schedule. So thanks, Mark. Really happy to talk to you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure. Yep.
Yeah, great.
All right, thanks. All right, thank you.